Hi, my name is Lau, also known as Mountain Buffalo. I have this blog called Breadbox64, and I'm interviewed here on SeaWorld Podcast.
Hey everybody, this is the Scene World Podcast. I'm AJ. Joerg is right over that way.
Here.
Yes.
And you can't see my finger because this is audio only.
Yep, I'm gesturing like people can see what I'm doing, and yeah. In a minute, we'll be talking to Michael Blatz. He is a publisher that was at Gamescom, and Nico and Markus Grupp, who were developers at Gamescom, and we'll be talking to them about the publisher and developer aspects of being at Gamescom. And I'm still gesturing like people can see me, and it's...
That happens all the time.
Yeah. I'm so used to doing video podcasts at this point that sitting back and doing.
But as you know, guys, as by public request, we also have a video version without a video on YouTube.
Yes.
So, if you're on YouTube, you can still listen to us anyway.
Yeah. So that's there in a minute. Before that, we will do our obligatory intro news section. Now that it's quiet in my apartment again, or
nice.
rather, now that it's quiet in our studio again.
Studio, spread over Skype over the world.
Yes.
Yeah. So, news. Well, Intellivision announced that the new Amico platform, the new console, would actually be released exactly 1 year from now. So in 2020.
We've been talking about this for like a year now. The Intellivision, they've announced that they were going to do a new console, and then they announced some of the games or the kind of games that they were going to release, which were family-friendly games, simple games that casual gaming can pick up, and then they released a list of some of the titles that would be there, and then not long ago, a new CEO was announced, which was
Hans Ippisch, former coder of Rainbow Arts and CEO of Compotech Publishing.
Yeah.
And now he is CEO of European section of Intellivision.
Yes.
So the original title is Head of European Operations.
So that's and we've spoken to him, or I haven't spoken to him, but Joerg has spoken to him in the past. So that gave us sort of a connection to this. But yeah, so we've been following this for a bit, and the Intellivision now they've given us a firm date on when it's going to be out.
Exactly. I've some years ago I did an interview with him for over 5 hours until his schnitzel got cold.
I hate it when my schnitzel gets cold.
And at Gamescom, I did an interview with him at the business area about Amico, the new console platform.
Cool. So that will
be...
And
where he also revealed for the first time that David Crane, one of his heroes, will go back from retirement and start developing games for them.
David Crane?
David Crane.
Okay. So, yeah. So that'll be in an upcoming podcast. Actually, the link to that interview is probably available right now, yes?
It is.
Yeah, so we'll put a link to that so you can go and actually watch the interview. We'll be doing the next podcast that you hear from us will be the Gamescom special, in which you'll be hearing a lot more about what happened at Gamescom and the people that Joerg and Martin and everybody else talked to.
Which is interesting because originally when we started this in 2014, AJ wasn't so fond about the idea, but it turns out it's the most listened podcast each year. Mm-hmm. So it seems like people are longing for hearing about the new retro IPs, reboots of old retro titles.
Yes. I have to put my French fries in the oven. Give me 1 second.
Sure.
Okay. So, so that's the next one that you'll hear.
Exactly.
Yeah. Double-Sided Games has released Vegetables Deluxe. Did we talk about this before?
Nope.
No. It's for the C64. It's a match 3 game for the C64. It's an upgraded version of a popular game featuring full-color graphics and stuff like that. So that's available from Double-Sided Games.
Nice.
Yeah, full boxed version, lovely packaging and all that stuff. The Mega 65, which we have covered a lot, and
we had them in the interview a couple of times.
Yes. They have reported that most of their pre-series machines are built.
Wonderful.
Yeah, they've posted a whole bunch of pictures showing 12 of them that are together. There's a video and everything, which we will link to. So the pre-series machines are built and put together and exist. And they look great, and they apparently work really well. So I'm still jazzed. I really, really want one of these. They're not for sale yet, I don't think. I mean, these are still just pre-series machines. Probably going to be going to developers and for testing and stuff. But I'm hoping that when they do come out, I can con them into giving me a press version, a review version.
Sure.
I really, really want one, and they look really, really cool. And I don't know why I want one, because again, the Commodore 65 was not a machine that was ever made, so there's no software.
200 pre-series.
Well, yeah, but I mean, it was never produced and sold, so
in series,
it's not so there is no software library for this machine. There's not like you can, and it'll work with the majority of C64 games and whatnot, but not everything. It doesn't have the compatibility that, say, the 128 had. It's just an odd machine, and yet for some reason I really, really want one. So
you will make a review like for the pet phone?
I'll make a review. I don't know if it would be like the pet phone's review. I mean, I can't see my review being negative on this, because it is cool, and for what it is, it's just an awesome looking product. Even
I agree.
Even if it is really just a proof of concept, just showing that it can be done, and there really is no practical use for it, it's still a really cool thing that I really like.
I see many parallels about Mega 65 and us. They're also a mixed group of enthusiasts working on a project where people say like, "You are crazy. This will never work."
Well, and a lot of people were complaining about the Mega 65 as potential vaporware and something that would never see the light of day. And they said that this would, it wasn't going to get made. And then there were delays in producing it. It took longer than they originally had planned. But again, they're not making this for profit. They're making this to document how the machines operate. And it's basically, the plans are open source. If you want to make your own Mega 65 machine, with your own, FPGAs and all that stuff, knock yourself out.
And call it the Mini 65.
Right. Yeah. Speaking of the Mini, the 64 or the C64 or whatever it's called.
The 64 is called.
Yeah. They had the Mini version.
The big version.
Yeah. Now the big version is coming out. I believe it's going to be out in December.
Yeah. And if you want to hear the podcast where Darren Mailburn, the project lead of this thing, talked to us during his Spain holidays, we will put a link to that interview as well.
Yeah. And this again is something that
people thought it's vaporware.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
This is why we were the only people who were willing to interview him, because we said like, we will give him a platform anyway.
Yeah, I feel differently about it than I do about the Mega 65, because the 64, normal sized with the keyboard and everything it's cool, and I like it in that it's available and it increases kind of like your potential audience and user base and customer base and whatnot, but I don't feel the need to have one because I have a C64 already, and without any, it's not offering me anything more than I already have with just my stock C64. You know, I can already use SD cards on my 64. I can already, you know, do whatever. If they made some way where the 64 could be modified to, you know, pretend to be a super CPU or something, that would be something different. But
now I tell you something shocking. I didn't pre-order it either.
Yeah. I mean,
but I have a mini.
Yeah. I mean, if I happen to come across one in the store and it's, you know, not that expensive, or I you know, at the spur of the moment, I might go, I'll have it for my shelf. But, you know, I'm not going out of my way to get one of these things either way.
If one is falling off the truck.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe I'll grab it, but I'm not gonna. It's a cool product. I do, you know, we do endorse it, and if people want to, if you want an easy entry into the 64 realm, because again, this is a newer machine. It's newer hardware that is less likely to fail. You know, you've got your HDMI hookups, you know, your compatibility with modern stuff like that. So you can just take it, plug it in, play some games that are on it without having to worry about finding an old disk drive or getting extra hardware, or, you know, your PLA chips going to, you know, teats up or something. You don't, it's going to last for a bit. But if you've got, you know, a functional 64 or 128 that is, you know, it doesn't offer that much over the actual machine. I got two pieces of Amiga newses. Amiga
nice.
Newses. Amiga Store there's an accelerator, the classic 520 accelerator. And they're available for sale. Which it's so what that is, it sits in the side of it. It's, you know, kind of like the ACA 500 Plus, which is what I've got on my Amiga. But this one has a 68020 running at 28 megahertz. It's got an IDE connector for, you know, a hard drive or a CD-ROM or whatever. It's got a CF card that is bootable. It's got an SD card connection for hot swapping stuff. 8 megs of RAM, of fast RAM. It's got space for Kickstart images on there.
I hope you mean SD card reader, because a connector would be weird.
It's got the thing where you stick the SD card into it.
Yeah, which is a reader, not a connector.
Well, yeah. So, but
for the tech Nazis.
Yeah, but it's got all that stuff, and it's going for 179 euros, which 179 euros is about $197. Not terribly expensive for an Amiga accelerator, which I don't know if you've checked eBay for Amiga accelerators, but they go for ridiculous amounts of money.
Just like a super CPU, $4,000 or something?
Yeah, if you want to find a good accelerator, man, they go for close to $1,000.
So I'm so happy I got a super CPU.
I don't know. There were certain things like, the 64 is the 64. The Amiga benefits from acceleration, I feel like, just because of what it is.
I used my super CPU for test drive, GEOS, crunching.
That's the thing that a lot of times in the U.S. too. It was popular in the U.S. because the people in the U.S. Were diehards, that they were not getting the people that you had in the late 90s, early 2000s still using the C64 were guys like I don't know,
Dave Moore.
Yes, Dave Moore, Lord Ronan.
He was a GEOS user till his death.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, he didn't use anything else. The C64 was his machine. That's what.
No, he got a Linux terminal because he got internet in the end.
Okay, but you had a lot of these guys that were diehards, like they were gonna fight till the bitter end and never give up the 64. And for them, something like the Super CPU makes sense, because the only way that if you need to squeeze out that last bit of blood out of this, cucumber. The only way to do that is acceleration. But, for me, this isn't my primary machine. I don't, I use it for what I use it for, and it's perfectly fine without acceleration. I can survive. The Amiga, because there were so many iterations of it, I've got my Amiga 500, and I've got the ACA 500 Plus accelerator, which is a 68,000, and it's running at like 48 megahertz or something. And that's great. It's snappy, and everything works great on it, and I like that. That's fantastic. But for the 64 is the 64, and I like that just the way it is. That's neither here nor there. But also, other things in Amigaland is that, aside from that, Amiga on the Lake is now selling the Romulator, which is
Never heard of that.
Yeah, it's from Amiga on the Lake and Kipper 2K. It's a Kipper 2K device, and he is pretty awesome with the Amiga stuff. What this lets you do is use almost any Kickstart ROM in your Amiga 500, 2000, or 600. So any Kickstart from 1.0 to 3.14, including custom ROMs, they can be all stuck on an SD card and just used from that without having to change the chip that it's in.
Impressive. Okay.
Yeah, it is pretty cool.
Because we know the Kickstart ROMs, you have to switch them sometimes.
Yes. Yeah. Well, you don't. I mean, if you don't have to, but if you want software compatibility, some stuff isn't compatible. Kickstart, the way it works is that sometimes older software rather, is incompatible with newer Kickstarts. So, for instance, I've got my Amiga 500 has Kickstart 3.14, the brandly new one from Hyperion. Some newer stuff doesn't work with that. So there you've got a couple of options. They used to make Kickstart switchers where you could have both of them in there, and then you'd have a switch on your Amiga and just pop back and forth. I've got the ACA 500 Plus from Individual, they've got pretty much every Kickstart that you can imagine already loaded onto that thing by default. So you don't even need a Kickstart ROM in the machine in order to start it up because it's on the ACA. So I can use the ACA to select, to bypass the internal ROM and go use 1.3 or whatever if the game calls for that. But there are other ROMs. There's diagnostic ROMs that only exist in chip form. And with this, you can essentially stick them all onto an SD card and use whatever you want.
Yeah,
without actually having to worry about, getting the thing that you could just download the ROM image and throw it on there and not have to worry about finding and tracking down one of these rare, weird diagnostic ROMs or something, So that's cool. That's an awesome thing for the Amiga guys.
That noise was just terrible.
What noise was that?
With the nose.
Oh.
Ooh.
Yeah, my nose doesn't work all that great, so when I breathe in through it, it makes some crazy noises.
Never experienced that until today. Not as much, yeah.
Yeah.
Like something was stuck in there,
Yeah, no, it was broken a long time ago, so air doesn't really go through it that easily. That's why it always sounds like I'm stuffed up.
And why you never got your nose corrected when it was broken?
Because I didn't know it was broken. Evidently.
How can you not know how it's broken?
You got me. I've been told. Something happened, and I went and got. I had X-rays done, and they're like, "Oh, your nose was broken," and I'm like, "I don't remember that." They're like, "Oh no, it was really broken." There's and there's a big lump there, and it's all I could feel all the scar tissue and stuff that built up, and then when the bone healed, I don't remember that ever happening.
Wow.
So I don't know. I don't know what the event was. I don't know how that happened. But at some point between, middle school, between 1994 or 3 or 4 and now, my nose broke.
Weird.
Yeah. Yeah, don't know. I'm looking at a thing here, and I don't know what I'm looking at. SID Blaster USB.
No idea.
SID Blaster Tic Tac comprises premium open source hardware for using a genuine SID for C64 emulation, playback of SID tunes, and music production as a little box on the USB port of a PC.
That sounds interesting.
So it's got good value, universal current supply, original 64 audio wire, optional connection facility for 2 paddles, switchable filter capacitors. I don't know what to say about this in the news.
Sounds interesting.
But I don't know where they are with it.
Well, just link to the homepage in the description below.
We'll put a link to that so you guys can all check it out. And I suppose it's cool. You should probably, if you're going to get one of these, maybe get one of the FPGA SIDs, or maybe a Swin SID or something like that, rather than grab a real SID out of a computer and stick it in this box that you're going to stick in your PC. I understand the desire to do so.
Well, we had that before hard SID.
Right, but I mean, that's, but again, that was a whole bunch of SIDs got yanked out of machines. And granted, the C64 is not like, it's not a rare machine. It's not like, we're going to run out of them anytime soon, but
it will become rare the more you do it.
There is a finite number of them, and we will eventually run out.
Yeah.
So,
because collectors like ours, we are not going to resell them, though the market will get sore.
Right, exactly.
In the end.
I mean, eventually we'll die and they'll re-enter the market, I'm sure, but that's down the road. That's not tomorrow.
Yeah.
Or, maybe not. We could croak, and then someone comes in our house and goes, I don't know what this junk is, and throws it out. That's the nature of that.
Hopefully before that time, I will take care of it.
Yeah.
And write how do you say, testimony?
Yeah, last will and testimony.
Yeah.
The Amiga store also has the Terrible Fire 530, which is a accelerator for the 500, the Amiga 500.
Anyway, before we end that part I wanted to say I did it different. I ordered the hard SID with SID chips in stock. And there were new old stock, so no original C64 was getting ripped off his SID chip. This was pretty important to me.
Hey, did we say that Free 64 magazine was released?
No.
Issue number 30. This is a while ago. This is like the beginning of September this happened. But we've been off the grid for a bit.
Yeah. Of course, we moved our homepage.
Yeah, Freeze 64, issue 30 was released. They must put out. They're 3 years old and they've got 30 issues, so they're putting out 10 issues a year.
I know.
That's fairly impressive. But I don't think that they're a disc mag. They're just like a regular old.
They're a paper mag.
Now you want to talk old school. That's pretty old school. Oh, and also, Vintage Computer Festival East has been announced.
Cool.
Yeah.
Will you go there again?
I will go there again, and hopefully I can spend more time. I went last year. I did not have that much time to spend there because I unfortunately had a bunch of other stuff going on. And then I ended up running into people that I used to be in a group with. Well, maybe I am still in a group with them, but they used to be in a demo group with me, and we ended up just having a mini reunion outside the front door. And
so I hope next time you will actually be inside.
Yes, I did get to hang out with Thomas Cherryholmes, and that was pretty awesome. And he was showing me a bunch of the stuff that he had found, doing some digital archaeology on Play-Doh. But so VCF has been announced. It's going to take place April 24th through 26th. 2020, at the same joint it always is, the InfoAge Science Center in Wall, New Jersey. Oh, and I saw on Facebook actually. Here's another interesting thing, which is not so much news as it is just something cool that happened, which is that Robin Harbin, who is one of our good buddies and one of the guy that originally coded our magazine outfit long ago. He's also one of the developers of the DTV and just an all-around generally decent human being. He has a blog, or a vlog. He's got a YouTube thing, the 8-Bit Show and Tell. And he and another NTSC staple, the Fat Man, who...
Oh, who doesn't know the Fat Man? He's famous in the scene.
I love the Fat Man, and he and I we used to email back and forth years ago, and I had lost. We haven't talked in a while. I lost track of him, but great to know he's still floating around. In an episode of the 8-Bit Show and Tell, Robin and the Fat Man discovered a bug in Turbo Macro Pro.
Wow!
The assembler. And they traced it back to the original 1985 code in Turbo Assembler.
Wow.
So this is a bug that is almost 35 years old.
Wow. And they fixed it.
They have fixed it. After 35 years, they found and fixed a bug in the original old Turbo Assembler on the 64. Which just goes to show you that you can never find all the bugs. There's always another one. There's always another one.
Wow.
Even though people may have never come across it.
Wow.
So that's the news. That's what I got.
Wonderful. Thanks a lot.
Yeah.
And now let's jump into the interview.
Yeah. Hey, those guys are standing right over there. They've been standing here quietly this whole time. I'm kind of impressed.
Hopefully they were sitting the whole time.
No, they've been standing right over there. I've been watching them. They've just been kind of nervously shuffling back and forth. And waiting for us to finish. I'm really impressed that nobody said anything. But yeah, we should probably get over there and get talking to them because I feel bad for making them stand so long.
So today we are actually talking about Gamescom from a different point of view. And to get a better grasp of that, we have some guests here. And that would be... Nico Grupp and his father, Markus. Hello.
Hi. Hello.
And Michael Blatz. And so to introduce everybody, I would say, let's say that, Nico and Markus, you are actually working on a game called Highrisers. So you would talk about how Gamescom is for you as a developer team.
Yes.
As you can see, father and son, or rather here. And also we have Michael Blatz, who was at Gamescom this year as a publisher.
Yeah.
So, and also, I have to admit, it was special because this year, the first time I got to know Markus, because normally Nico is going around and saying, I'm doing this with my father, but his father has never seen. So I'm glad that you made it today. Thanks for that.
Yeah, thanks.
Let's start a bit. How did it actually happen that you became involved into the business of video gaming and Gamescom and being in the business area? And maybe let's start with Michael. How did it happen for you?
It happened with my studies. I studied game development actually in university in Heidelberg in Germany here, and after that I joined a company called Corian, and in this company I'm working today as the CEO. I joined and I had a really, really fast career there. And then we've made some simulations and assistive games, more like serious games and deductional games. But when you are studying something like game development, you don't want to do only those things. You want to do entertainment games, so really, really great stuff. And soon we started then making awesome other games. We wanted to do a game that's really good looking and has more complexity. And yeah, so we are currently working on multiple games now, from pixel art games to really awesome looking games, 3D games like Ships and Scoundrels. Yeah.
But this year it was different because you became a publisher.
Yeah, kind of. We're not the classical publisher in this case. We are working together with an awesome team that were students actually, and they founded a new company called Sticky Stone Studio, and they made a game completely while studying. That's kind of a 3D puzzle game like Myst or The Witness. I think that's the most similarity here. And they wanted to self-publish the game. And I'm doing some seminars in Offenburg, in University of Offenburg, and those two were my students then. And I thought, oh, this project is awesome. It's looking really great, and it has awesome mechanics. And I thought, yeah, that's a great idea to found a company, and so you can build your own games and have a lot of creativity. But I think this game will also be awesome on consoles because on PC you don't have the most sales for now. If you look at the Nintendo Switch, for indie game developers, it's awesome on the Switch because you don't have that much competitors. Okay, now you have a lot of competitors, but it's not that much as you have on Steam or something like that. And then I said, okay, we have the licenses and we have the experience and we have the hardware to develop on consoles. Let's make some kind of cooperation. You want to self-publish your game on Steam. That's what they really wanted to do. They don't want it to get any publisher involved. And we said, okay, let's make a cooperation. We will make the console ports for Switch, Xbox One, and PS4 for free with revenue share then. And we will co-publish that with you on those platforms. And we have also shared the costs for our booth and at Gamescom or at DevCom, and it's basically a win-win situation in this case then.
Okay, thank you. So how about Nico? How was it for you and your dad? How did that start for you?
You mean Gamescom visit this year, or generally our?
Yeah, I mean, as I understood, Solar Powered Games was actually a new company founded by the idea to work with your father and working on the game Highrisers, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And I guess that was the start.
That was the start, yeah.
Yeah, so maybe start with that.
And in our beginnings, it was the scope of the game was a bit more humble. So when we first discussed it, we knew the basic idea of buildings and survival would be in the game. Because so Markus can bring his knowledge as an architect into the game design. And we also thought that we would finish the game in 1 year, which turned out to be untrue. But also I think the scope from what we discussed in the first iteration, it also elapsed. And it's Markus has quite some experience as in various fields of jobs, and also as a businessman, which I lack a bit. But I had some prior experience with game design and also programming, so we had the skill set available that we needed, but we still needed to get the thing bit running, and you get the edges a bit rounded, and we had to go into a flow of working together and to get into a cycle of productivity. And that was quite an experience. I don't know, Markus, how it felt for you when we started and how it slowly proceeded.
Oh yes, I also thought that the development would be faster. You talked about 1 year, and so we need more time and we need more money. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. That was
for this. I can say maybe for other people who want to make a game, an indie game. We come to the Gamescom from this point. I think we saw there a lot of people who are looking for publisher, for example, or how they can develop their play. I think the biggest problem is to get it financed. So you find someone who can give you money to develop the game. So I saw a lot of people who are looking for a publisher. I think it's a good idea from the Gamescom to bring the people together, the artists who want to make the game, and people who can support them. Yeah.
That's actually an interesting point. Did you come to Gamescom because you did it yourself, or because of Ensemble, your publisher, or how did that actually happen? Because the way you just explained it sounded more like you are going there as a developer and looking for a publisher at Gamescom.
No. We are very lucky that we have the publisher since 1 year ago. We are glad to get Ensemble because they supported us, and actually we needed the support, not because the money, but because they could support you to finish, that you can get your your targets. They making a plan, I'll call it a time plan, or like this. They say, hey, you have 1 year, you have to get your targets, and they could give you a good advice where you are standing.
And mainly we needed them for marketing and PR support, because we felt that while developing a game, it was going over our heads, so we could not do proper PR, even community management while developing. But also, of course, they have insight from production side, so they could help us when we were a bit struggling with prioritizing, for example. So we had 5 features and all looked nice, but it was a bit hard for us to say, okay, which is now the most important? And that's where a publisher like Ensemble, of course, can provide significant help, and we're very glad for that. But the question that you posed, yes, Gamescom was organized by our publisher Ensemble. So if we didn't have a publisher, we could have gotten there somehow. You can, if you're a member of the Gamesverband, you can get at a common booth. Since we are a developer both from Baden-Württemberg, where Markus and the main office is located, and from Bavaria, where I live, and also our what's it called, dependance is located. So we could have gotten maybe in the Game Bavaria thing. So there would have been other ways, but of course it's easier, more comfortable, and also more professional if you have a publisher who deals with that. So they also made all the press arrangements. So they had press contacts, and they say, hey, people, do you want to check out our game Highrisers? And then we didn't really have to deal with that. We just had to be there in available and sober way to deal to tell about the game and do the presentations. It was not more expected from us, so that's a good thing.
Yes, I can fill into that a bit. From my point of view, I was actually contacting Ensemble because I heard that they are doing the new Larry game, you know, and I really wanted that. And then I was like, okay, so this appointment is like half an hour, no problem. Quick interview. And then we went there, and then they were like, oh, do you have another hour? Because we have a few more games we would like to show you. And then like, here, pixel art, Highrisers, you know? And then you have the game from Michael, which is like more like an Amiga graphic game because it's more advanced graphical wise. So they really planned ahead of how they can get us looking at the other games too, while we were only actually planning to look at the Larry games. So that was quite interesting, though they really thought ahead, you know, like, you have a bit more time, we have a few more games. So that was really interesting because they didn't tell us. So for us, it was a total surprise. And I have to admit, both games, they are really great. The only problem, I think Michael has to help me here, because I always forget the name of your pirate ship game. What was it called again? Seagulls or something?
Of ships and scoundrels.
Yeah, right. That's the problem. I always forget its name. You know.
I think one reason why you haven't heard something of Ships and Scoundrels before was that we signed the contract with Assemble just a few months before. I think it was back in May last year, and we really crunched to make a version to show at Gamescom. So it wasn't sure until the end if we can show something of our game there. I think that's one of the reasons you haven't heard of any other game than Larry, because that was the only really sure thing there.
Ah, okay. Okay, I didn't know that. Okay,
I can't speak for Highrisers, but for us it was.
It was kind of similar. We were like proceeding to build up a demo version also we thought that maybe we could give it out to Kickstarter backers, and then it was ready pretty much to Gamescom, so it was actually a good fit. Last year at Gamescom, where both Highrisers and Of Ships and Scoundrels was shown, that was when I got to know Michael. So I would like to know, how was it for you now that this year you were not in the business area where everything is like a bit clean and controlled, because not everyone can go there, but you were down in indie arena, right? As not in the arena booth, but in the
indie village. Yes,
indie village. Yeah. How was it?
So first of all, it's a really great opportunity to us, because the indie arena booth, which is organized by another I don't actually know who is organizing it, but it's not Gamescom, and we didn't make it to show our game there. There were I think about 200 games.
Yeah, but and twice that many applications.
200 applications, and they had to pick some special applications out there. So Indie Village was a great opportunity to us, because we also had a great location. We were pretty much in the middle of the hall, and everyone could see us, because the floors were came together on our point, on our booth. So that's great. There were 3 floors, and they all pointed to our booth. That was great. And I think what you told before, Nico, was Assemble organized everything for us last year, and this year that was really hard time for us, because we had to organize our press appointments, and we had to organize the complete booth. We only had the place. We didn't have anything. We needed our furniture, seats, posters, goodies, and so on. Everything Assemble did for us last year of Ships and Scoundrels, we had to do by ourselves for the Memora, the game we showed this year. And that was hard because we are also developing full time. So everything that went into Gamescom organization was besides our full time job, and besides of making a great version to show on that event. That was really hard. So it was good that we didn't have to manage everything by ourselves. We also had the guys of Sticky Stone Studio that made a few organization things for us. But it was basically 2 months of working from early in the morning until late into the night. Yeah.
But your booth looked terrific. Even you had decorations and stuff. It was really like great work.
Yeah, the decoration was part of Sticky Stone Studio, so they did awesome work. And they what I didn't know, they prepared cans with it wasn't energy drink, it was coffee. Yeah, it was coffee, mm-hmm. And it was kind of a giveaway when the people played the game. Then that was a great thing, because we could also say, hey, if you have the chance to get a coffee when you are playing the game, or later we have also gave them the possibility to get this coffee with the Memora print on it when they are putting. We had kind of a cosplay, some kind of a helmet to wear, and we said, if you wear this helmet and post it on social media, you can get a chance to get some of those coffees and so on. And that was really great, and the people really enjoyed that. They really enjoyed that. And I think what's different to the business area, I think that's the most difference, is you don't have so much professional contacts. You have professional contacts that are interested in the game, or like, do you search artists or programmers or something like that? But only a few really were from the press or from publishers. A lot of people just wanted to play the game, and what was really awesome was that we only had one station to play. So it's not the best thing. So if anyone wants to show the game on Gamescom, I really recommend to have a lot of stations to play there, or to offer to play. And but it was it's a puzzle game, so you can't just sit 5 minutes there and understand the whole game, because that's basically the tutorial of the whole game. So most of the people were playing 15 to even 30 minutes, depending on how many people were standing there. But after the business day, after the trade visitor day, we had a lot of people that really wanted to play the game. Even people that said, I'm only coming for Gamescom for indie games, because all other games are, I'm just waiting hours for the big AAA games. No, I'm just for the people and for indie games coming to Gamescom. And they were waiting. They were waiting for around 1 hour. We had really queues on our booth, and people wanted to play our games so much that they wanted to wait for it, and that was an awesome feeling. That's a feeling you don't have in the business area, because you have your plan when on which time is which business appointment coming and so on, and you see the players, and they want to play your game. They really want it, so they were waiting for it, and that's an awesome feeling. Really, that's a kind of a compliment to the developers.
I think in the business area, people are more like slaves to their planning, and they say, "Hey, I have an appointment here, but I have like 30 minutes, and then I have the next appointment." It's nice when, like Joerg, with you, when you came and you only expected to see Larry, and then, hey, you still got some time. We have some more. And basically, as a developer, when you're presenting, and then you have off times when there is no presentation, I sometimes just walk around there and drink coffee and get to talk to people. And sometimes when you find out they're also from media or they're journalists, and you're like, "Hey, you interested in some pixel art games? So zombie survival? I have something to show you. You have 15 minutes?" And sometimes they really, yeah, okay, why not? And then you can show the game, and it's unplanned. And Dennis, the assembled PR manager, he was like, "Oh, where did this guy come from? He was not on the list." Yeah, I made myself a small little presentation slot. And then okay. Actually, it's pretty cool. But I can see that the merit of being closer to the consumer in the consumer area, and I would also be interested to get there with Highrisers.
It's interesting because this year for us it was totally different, because last year we were mostly asking publishers if we can have interview and presentation appointments, and this year a lot of PR companies actually contacted us and wanted to present their game to us. So this year we had the problem that, oh God, so many appointments and just so few days. How can I get enough slots that I can still be present at the booth that we have in the retro area? So I'm not spending all my time in the business area. That was really hard, Yeah. So it seems like last year a lot of publishers and PR companies got attention on us and decided to write us this year and invite us for their games.
Or last year they discovered that the PR that they can get from going to smaller things like us is worth it. There was a noticeable impact on their sales or visibility or something. Maybe,
yeah. I wonder, because for Markus it was the first Gamescom. How was it for you? Wasn't it boring to make interviews and talk about the same thing to press all the time?
No. I enjoyed it a lot. Really, because I think there are a lot of people working seriously to make to make indie games and to publish it. Mm-hmm. And I enjoyed to present Highrisers to the press, for example, for you. I think it was a nice interview, or wasn't it?
Oh, definitely. I really enjoyed that you were like the good cop, and your son was more like the bad cop. Like you're like, I think we can make the artificial intelligence better and improve it. And Nico was like, be careful about what you say. I'm not so sure about that. Like, wow, a battle between father and son. That was totally interesting for me.
But this happens all the time.
Yeah. Well, not all the time, but like
often. Yes. Yeah, but I think I saw that there is a lot of interest to indie games. There are a lot of people coming. They want to see Larry, and then they saw Highrisers. And but I thought, yes, we had 15 minutes to talk with the press and so on. And after this 15 minutes, I thought they liked Highrisers.
This year we had shorter slots. We only had 15 minutes or 15 to 20 instead of the 30.
And this is like Michael told. I think you have a lot of people there, and they come to see indie games. They want to see, hey, what's new, and they are interested. And yes, it's not a. As Nico and I, we know that it's not a great production. You see, so it's a little indie game, and. Yes, I enjoyed it to get to the public there.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
It's a good feeling that even though you're not a multi-million-dollar AAA production, that you can raise the interest of people. You just say, okay, that looks interesting. I give you 15 minutes of my time. Show it to me. And if in the end, if they look really like, wow, okay, that has potential. It makes you feel good, because as a developer, sometimes you have this internal feeling. You know that what you're doing is good, but sometimes this fuel runs low, and then you just want some external feedback and input. And if you then say, okay, this guy has never heard of solar powered games and never of Highrisers, and he gave you 15 minutes of his time, and after that he says, okay, that's a cool game, I'm gonna keep an eye off that, then you say, yeah, okay, it's worth what we're doing. And
we got it.
That's a great experience.
Yeah, that's true. One thing that I've noticed, I don't know if this was exceptional, but when we were at Ensemble last year, and also this year when we spoke to the other guys that also did a horror survival game, but in a different way.
Of Deadly Days?
Yeah, Deadly Days, right. They were also surprised that the interview would be in English. So seems like because the communication was in German, everybody expected us that we would do the interview and presentation in German. And we totally didn't think about it being a surprise, but it looks like it was. I don't know how it was for you. Did you have any info who's coming there for the interview, or what language it would be, or?
Well, we have a plan by the Assemble PR manager, and then you can see the name of the visitor that has made the appointment, and the name of the media. But okay, sometimes if it's an Italian or French media, you can expect it to be in English, but sometimes you don't know. So most of the time I just ask a PR manager, or just the guy, because you just say hello and he says his name, and sometimes you cannot tell, okay, is this going to be English or German? You just ask. Or sometimes we had like double presentation, because there were some appointment mixings, so there were two people at the same time. One of them was German speaking and the other one was an Italian guy, and we asked, hey, German guy, would it be okay if we do the presentation in English, so you can just sit together? And none of them had any problems with that. So, and I think it went on pretty smoothly. So after a while, I did parts of the presentation already last year. So after 2 or 3, I was already in the flow. And for Markus, it was new, but after he heard some of the presentations, he also knew what was going on. And then it was like, it was also refreshing, because I was so much in my mode. I was like doing the same thing over and over again like a robot, and already knew when to say what. And Markus sometimes totally surprised me with some comment. It was oh, he's breaking the cycle. Okay, but then we just went on. It was actually pretty refreshing and smooth, so that you're not so much in a drone mode, like, okay, I'm just repeating the same thing over and over again.
Yeah, right. But this year they also had I think it was an
Encodia?
Encodia, exactly.
Yeah.
And that was actually by an Italian living in Estonia. So
yeah. Nicola,
this time, no surprise with English, because that is what he was expecting.
Yeah.
which is really interesting to me because this is it's Gamescom is based in Germany. But it's also one of the biggest games convention in the world, or one of them.
Yeah,
you know? So
exactly.
it's kind of to me, I would think that most things would be presented in something that is kind of worldwide, because it's not just Germans going there. It's people from all over the world. So I don't know where I'm going with this. I just totally lost my train of thought. But
it's true. It depends, you know. For example, when you go to the retro area of Gamescom, it's everything in German.
Really?
And why is it that way? Because people who decide certain things disagree with the need of English. And but at Scene World, since we are an English disc magazine, that is actually where we are coming from. Our material is in English anyway, so.
Well, and I see most of the people that are in the retro section, that we've interacted with a good number of them. You know, Senad and you know all these other guys that are there, and a lot of them based a lot of their stuff in. Well, Senad kind of goes back and forth, but a lot of them base a lot of their stuff in English to get a bigger audience together.
Exactly, yes. But as Nico and Michael already said, this all depends on the organizer of the region of Gamescom.
Right.
Because as they explained, every region like indie, retro has a different organizer. It's not organized automatically by Gamescom itself.
Right.
So it's not their decision. I guess that is the reason why. Okay. And I also have to say, since we were also an exhibit and we also had a booth there in the entertainment area, after 5 days you are just losing concentration. I know when I had an appointment at 3D Realms for their Doom and Duke Nukem 3D engine based ego shooters, the newer ones, and I knew
what shooter?
That ego shooters,
first person shooter,
yeah.
What did you call it? An
eagle?
Ego?
Ego?
No, ego. EGO. Like
ego. Oh,
from ego perspective.
Ego.
Oh,
ego,
okay,
yeah.
okay. I've never heard it called that.
I knew that their new publisher for that was in the Czech Republic. So I was there on a Saturday, on a Saturday, the last day of Gamescom, and like my final appointment, and I was so tired. And then I was standing there in the indie area, you know, at 1C Publishing. They had a bigger booth there, and then I was talking to that 20 years old woman, you know, like, hey, I'm from Scene World and we have an appointment with Frederick Schreiber from 3D Realms. We want to see their games. So can we please get in? And then she was saying like, what? I was like, okay, I just asked in German. Because I was totally not realizing that maybe a 20-year-old woman from Czech Republic doesn't know German. But I was so overwhelmed and so exhausted by Gamescom on the last days. I totally lost it, you know. And in the opposite to the UK booth, where people instantly tell you, speak English, please, because otherwise I don't understand you. Czech people just let you talk, even if they don't understand a word.
They just smile and nod.
Yeah, and then suddenly like, what? You know?
I think it often happens that you start talking in English and the other one is replying in English. After 10 minutes, you realize that you're both Germans, and then you're a bit embarrassed and switch back to German.
Yeah, that's also happening sometimes.
But I guess it also depends a bit on what's your target group here. When I was a student, I worked as an intern for 2K, and their labels. Take Two was the mother company, and then 2K and Rockstar were the labels. And back in those days, in the business area, they were mostly not so much presenting to press. There were two, but it was not the main event. The main event was to present it to what's it called? Traders. Like the most important guys were of the electronic markets of MediaMarkt and Saturn. The most relevant German electronic markets, and then a bit Galeria Kaufhof and so. And so those lacking the right term for them. So the guys who decides which box to put in the sales area of the department store. And they got the real big presentation, and all the marketing and the sales guys were buzzing around them and making them comfortable, because they made the real important decisions. If they decided to order less boxes of the newest shipment, then this would really impact sales. And of course, they were all from Germany, Austria, and Switzerland, so they were all German speaking. So the whole thing was going on in German then. And as it was in Germany then, there was no relevance for an English or French department store operative to be there. So the only thing that was in English were press presentations from international media. But the whole they had a whole big area in the business center. It was back in Leipzig then still, and everything was talking in German. And they even had their promoters and hostess, and so they most of them weren't even English speaking.
Okay.
So
I didn't know that. I'm just at Gamescom since 2014, so I don't know how it was when Gamescom was still in Leipzig. But interesting to hear the past stories.
Yeah, it was like they were the real big guys who decides which box, and then it somehow declined, and now they're completely lost their relevance with everyone streaming. And even if you go on console, you don't have to go to a market anymore and buy a box copy. You just say, okay, I go to a marketplace and stream it. So they're really those guys who were the big players back then lost their relevance.
Interesting.
Yeah, those were the days.
So how was it for you, Michael? As to say, you are also co-publishing. How was it for you? I mean, I don't know. Did you go to Gamescom before, or are you relatively new to Gamescom?
I'm visiting Gamescom since the last Games convention. I don't know if everyone knows about that, but in the earlier days, Gamescom started as Games convention in another city, in Leipzig. And then after it grew more and more, it changed the location to Cologne, and has been called then Gamescom. And until I was developing Ships and Scoundrels, I was just visiting Gamescom, for fun. You can say that. I had the luck that I studied game development, so I could visit the Gamescom with a trade visitor pass. But I'm a really professional. I'm a really professional visitor since the last 3 years. Then.
Interesting. I couldn't imagine going as a normal visitor in the entertainment area, because what AJ doesn't know, there are waiting times like 3 or 5 hours. They're actually putting signs up like from here onwards 3 hours, from here onwards 4 hours.
God, was this Disney?
From here onwards 5 hours, and you are having a playtime of between 10 and 20 minutes.
Ugh.
That's so crazy. In the earlier days, it wasn't that hard. I can remember at when those games, when you had so the last Games convention or the first 1 or 2 Gamescoms, you had waiting times from half an hour, maybe 1 hour, but for the big games, for really big games, and that was it. And now you have 1 visitory card every year, and every year there will be more visitors, and next year there will be the next record, because it's 1 day, 1 additional day. So I don't think that it becomes better then.
Yeah, well, it was this year. It was 500,000
No, I think it was 373,000.
I thought that was the number from last year. What I heard was this year was 500,000. Maybe I'm wrong. At least that is what I heard.
I'm pretty sure it was not that much, but I'm sure that we will come nearer to that number the more days it will be open. So
A quick Google test says that Michael is more close with 373. That's the official visitor numbers.
Interesting. Thank you, Mr. Google.
But I don't. But I don't know if it's the true number of visitors or if it's just I don't know if the trade visitors, the professionals, count as normal visitors. That would be interesting to know because you don't have any ticket limitation as a professional visitor, while you have ticket limitations as a normal visitor.
So here on Gameswirtschaft it says that in those official numbers there are 31,000 trade visitors, but not the media guys and not the exhibitors and not the delivery people. So they are not in there. Yeah. Okay.
Interesting. Okay. Interesting. Yeah. Yeah, that's actually something I really enjoy, to be able to go around with my exhibitor ticket and go to the business area and play some new games without the waiting. I know when some years ago when Thimblebeat Park was new, they actually had an exclusive for the Xbox, and that is why I had the interview at the Microsoft booth in the entertainment area, and there was this 3 hours waiting line, and then some Microsoft worker said like, "Oh, you have an appointment, so come in the back entry." And the gamers were like looking at me like they would like to kill me.
Yeah. So during when we had a small break, Markus and I went on the Fachbesuchertag. What's that? Trade Visitor Day. So when it's not yet open to the public, so we went down there and we saw, okay, there's this nice looking Borderlands booth, and we just waited there for 15 minutes, and then we went in there and played for 20 minutes. And on Friday, when there was no longer presentation in the business area, so I was free to go. There were two friends of mine, two girls who were cosplaying as Princess Peach and Princess Daisy. And then we went to the 2K booth. And as I said, I worked with those guys some years ago, so I knew them. There was the 4-hour line. I said, hey, could you get those two princesses in there? They would be really happy, and it would make their day. And okay, we can arrange something. And so they were guided in there also with skipping the 4-hour lines. They were totally happy, like they would be led backstage on a rock festival, and they were happy. And then I was the great guy who made this possible, so I was happy too, and everyone was
hero.
Happy. Yeah, exactly. But those 4-hour lines, that's really ridiculous. And that's another reason why I think that the indie area is much more interesting, because to be honest, the big titles, you will see them anyway. And if I see them a bit earlier or not, it's not such a great surprise. I mean, Call of Duty will be all over the press anyway. So what's the point of playing it some weeks earlier? While in the retro area or the indie area, there's some like real jewels that have somehow not been on my radar until now, so that I didn't know of. And that's really, you can grab some gems there and say, ooh, that looks nice, never heard of that. And I think this kind of discovery you don't get in the AAA areas of the big players.
Also, something we have to consider is that a lot of prior DOS games, for example, they are getting the IP bought by indie studios. So suddenly, a past AAA game from the 90s is becoming an indie game because an indie studio took over the development of the successor of the game series.
Like System Shock, for example?
Yes,
Yeah.
or Equinox, which is also the project that we interviewed them about, and it's developed in it's developed abroad, and it's interesting because originally it was a Blue Byte game, and now it turned from AAA to indie studio game.
Yeah.
And it's actually developed in Serbia, and I've never heard about game development in Serbia before. So it's interesting how the border between indie games and AAA games and big publishers, small publishers, they all get blurred and vanish in a way, because now even the indie studios take over successors of former AAA games.
Yeah.
Which of course has the downside that sometimes those games take 4 years or longer to complete. I remember, I especially noticed that because AJ keeps asking me, so is Equinox Deep Descent ready yet? Because they are saying since 5 years it's almost ready, and we are working on it, and but I guess that's a different problem that you, Nico, mentioned at the beginning of our interview, that as a small indie studio, you don't have so much resources to finish your game instantly or as fast as you wish.
Yeah, I think that Highrisers is the best example. We are on a steady production progress, so we've never been slacking. But the core team really only consists of Markus and me. So we're the only guys really working on it all the time. And for our scope, I think for this normal to be expected productions, like we would have required like 6 to 8 people. And of course, we're not doing it alone. We have several freelancers that work for us, but they're not like working 40 hours a week. They have different projects and other downtimes. So, of course, people are like, hey, I've seen this last year. When will it come out? And I think Markus and me, we also feel like, okay, this has been going on for some years now. We must finish this now so that we can also move on or think about what comes next. But I think it's just that the price you pay for working as an indie developer, that sometimes if you're independent, and it means that you're not swimming in the cash, that you have to adapt your work cycle to what you can do. And we are in a relatively comfortable position due to Markus' prior economical success, so he can guarantee that the game will finish. So that's a pleasure that not every developer can have, that he has a father and team member with the what's it called, liquidity, with the money just to back development up when things get rough. But it takes time. I think it's a question of properly communicating things. So we did a Kickstarter, and of course, I've been neglecting the Kickstarter backers. That's what I'm. Just when you talk about it, they demand progress reports. So, hey, what's going on? I'm eager to play the game. When will it be finished? Shouldn't it have been finished like an hour, a year ago? And it's like, yeah, we're sorry. Things took longer than we anticipated. And it's sad. And of course, you want to deliver to your customers the game as quickly as possible. But you also want to deliver quality. And I think most often than not, it's just so we have to deliver now because cash is running out. So we can afford 3 more weeks of development and then it's done. So we have to ship no matter what state. And that's, I think nobody makes any, that's not good for anyone, neither for players nor for the developers. I've seen some, I'm keeping track of some other products that were in a Kickstarter in development when we started, and like 3/4 or 75% of them are also still in production. So yeah, we're late. It takes longer than we planned and longer than we hoped for, but it's not like we're in bad company. It just happens. I don't know, Markus, how you feel about it. Markus is architect, and he comes from construction building. So I think it's harder to like skip any plans when you're building a building, because there are other physical connections to it. But then on the other hand, it's I can think that maybe constructing a building, that's a more established process that has been done for like 6,000 years, and people just know how long it takes to make a building, while programming a video game in an engine that you have never programmed with or something. I don't know, that may be a different thing. Markus, what's your feelings?
Yes, but I think it's like building. You have to finish a building that the people can get in, and then you can earn money because you can sell the building, and it's the same with the game. Now we are definitely at the end. We talked about our publisher, that we will come out with the early access. That means that we don't want to build the game totally to finish it, but we want to make this early access, that we have a first step to finish it. And I think our game, that there is a lot of architecture in it, a lot of different buildings. So I think it's naturally to make this early access, because we can build, for example, every month a new world. So the player will see continually new things, and otherwise the game is ready. So we can definitely say the game will be published. So I think that we really can guarantee it, because we have a strong company in the back, so we can promise it to our players. Hey, who joined the Kickstarter campaign, we can definitely say Highrisers will come. Yes.
Yeah, that's more than some other indie companies can say. Unfortunately, the market is a really tough one. But yeah, there's this a small team size is really it fits to the way of going early access and then bringing on continuously updates. I think my biggest a game where when I look upon this where it worked, this was Klei's Don't Starve. They've been in early access for, I don't know, years, but they've continuously just kept on with development and kept on pushing small updates and more features and more content. So the players were really seeing that there's progress. I think this is the thing that we have in mind for Highrisers.
Reminds me a bit of No Man's Sky, but that was more a PR disaster, because their CEO promised more of the game than there was actually inside the game, and now they keep pushing big and smaller updates to finally keep all the promises they did like 3-4 years ago.
Yeah.
But I guess that's probably not the way Highrisers will go or anything, because as your father said, it will just offer new content in the already established game.
Yeah.
I wonder, Michael, by the way, as you said that this year you had to organize everything yourself for the indie area, I wonder, do you plan to go back to the business area next year, so you have less of organizing work for Gamescom and can spend more on game development?
That depends on Yeah, that depends on the games we are working for and the publishers we are working for. I think it's more exceptional that we are doing publishing work in this case. It's something special. But for our future games, I'd like to work again together with the publisher. For now, we are having a few games that will be finished, and we will start later this year with new projects. But I currently can't say if they are ready to show next year or next year's Gamescom. But yeah, I think it's awesome on the business area to have a lot of professional contacts and contacts to press. It's more like networking, but being in the entertainment area is a different experience, because in the entertainment area you have the direct contact to the gamers, to your I don't like the word customers, but yeah, in the end, it is a customer, every player. But I think you get a better image of how your game will succeed, and if your game is really fun. Because of course, you as a team, you love your game, you are really passionate about that, and in the business area, you only get the professional view. You get a few questions about the game and so on, but you can't really say if those contacts are if those contacts are really if they love your game, or if they don't think that it's a good game or something like that. And the most of them wouldn't tell you, I think, because they don't want to make you sad or something like that. And in the entertainment area, it's a bit more real. You see, do the players like your game, or do they hate it, or are they frustrated? That's a really important thing we saw. We could see at which point in our game, even in the early stages, are the players frustrated, and those areas in the game will be a bit adjusted, so it's a bit more accessible for every player. And I think that's just these are two different experiences. I would love to be in both areas because both is important. You need the press, because you want everyone to get you to know your game, but you also need the feedback of the players, because that's really, really important, especially for indie developers. Because with a big publisher, when you have a double or triple A game, you can do a lot with big advertisement, I think. We have seen a lot of games that had really, really big advertisement, but were just average games. And an indie developer really needs to be seen, because they don't have the big budget for the games. And even if the games are great, if nobody knows your game exists, that doesn't help you then. And it's awesome that the Gamescom offers now something like the Indie Village, because it seems they have seen indies are really, really passionate developers, and those games are great. I think over the past years, the quality of indie games have also increased. And that's for sure one reason why the Gamescom has made a half haul of indie games then. Yeah, so it's best to have from both worlds everything.
Yeah, but by the way, your point of saying that the business area, you talk more to professionals, I found this year and last year that this kind of blur it a bit as well. For example, when we had our appointment for the new Contra game, at Konami, there were also, bloggers and YouTubers invited for the presentation of that game, and that were not working for professional media, just a blog that they do in their free time, but they have enough reach. Just like we from Scene World, we do this as a hobby, but we have enough reach now that we are taking serious. So I'm not sure if all the business area is 100% professional media. I think thanks to influencers and YouTubers, this also seems to change a bit in a way.
I think for an indie developer, it doesn't matter if it's professional media or hobby, because as I said, it's just to be seen, to be known, because the most indie games, I think there are a lot of indie games out there that are great games, but the sales are really low because nobody knows about the games.
Yeah.
And that doesn't speak for the quality of the game. That's the really bad thing about that, and that can shatter dreams. Because to be honest, I think that most of the indie developers are just building their dream. They have a great vision of a game they want to make, and I think you feel the passion and the love they put into that game when you play those games. So much more as for the most AAA titles, I think. It's only important to be seen, and if it's professional media or a blog with a big reach, that doesn't matter.
Yeah, which is probably also the reason why EA and Konami and all the big publishers are suddenly inviting not only the professional media, but also, as I said, influencers and all that stuff. It's interesting to see the shift in the game industry towards the indie. Towards the influencer and YouTuber, and not so much print media anymore.
Yeah, well, it's interesting because it's almost like, as AAA games have sort of given way to indie studios, so the press has also gone from the big AAA, big magazines and websites and whatnot to smaller, like you said, influencers and schlubs like us that are sort of just doing this as a hobby.
Yeah, I think a big problem is just look at the really big publishers. Look at Activision. What are they doing? They are doing, Call of Duty every year. Look at EA. They are doing Battlefield. They are doing Need for Speed and FIFA. Though when you come to Gamescom, you already know what that game's about. You don't even need to play it because it's just more of the old formula, and I think the players are tired about that. Mm-hmm. They want to have new experiences, and most of the indie developers are trying to create new experiences. They are more experimental.
Mm-hmm.
So, do you think that the trend of reviving old retro DOS game IPs and giving them to independent indie studios is a good or bad thing?
I think it's a good thing, because those titles are or have been great or are great, and I think indie developers can make them a bit more modern, make a bit more experimental stuff with it, but they also show the love to to the original game, because I don't think any indie developer would make such a game without loving the original. And here is again the passion in you see the passion in these games then. And I think when you look at Night Dive Studios that are doing the System Shock remakes or the remasters, you really see they want to create the original experience, and that's a good thing, I think, because a lot of games, like when you look at System Shock, shooters or any genre evolved over the last 20 years. And you have some kind of evolution into the same direction for the big AAA titles. So I think you have, just look at Battle Royale. Yeah? Everyone tries to recreate the same experience over and over again. So it's kind of refreshing to have the experience you had 20 years before again today, because it's just like a new experience again then. I think it's awesome. And if you would give those IPs to bigger studios, they would try to maximize the sales or the financial outcome, just putting loot boxes into it or other crap. So I think when you give it to indies, of course, they want to sell the game and earn money with it, but they don't do it for the maximization of sales or money. They do it also for the game itself, because they want to. They are honored to work on such an IP. Then that's something different with a big studio. I think indies are honored, and they really don't want to make the fans of the series mad then.
Yeah, I totally agree with what Michael said. Couldn't have said it better. Even with you put the question to things like putting big IPs into the hand of indies and how they are like treating it humbly. Even if you say we're not talking about a big IP, we're just talking about something more vague, like a concept. I mean, like with of Ships and Scoundrels, some people had asked if it was going into like a direction of Sid Meier's Pirates and so. That would have been a great thing. I think you went a bit in a different direction, right? It's not.
Yeah. I was honored, but I also was a bit afraid of it, because fans that love pirates, I think they would be a bit disappointed about our game, because it is not pirate. So it's great for publicity to get to get your game named in one sentence with Sid Meier's Pirates, but it could be a problem also, because the people will want to get a refund, because it is not Sid Meier's Pirates. So it's great and and a bit problematic at one time. Yeah.
So I wonder, would it be a dream for you guys to get the task of continuing an old DOS IP game, AAA game, and making a successor for it, or are you more for developing your own games?
The question is which DOS IP would be fancy, and now that System Shock is out of it's already taken. And XCOM is already like gone. I gotta admit, I'm not so much a DOS guy. I started with the 8-bit consoles and 16-bit consoles, and on PC it was first game were like already Warcraft 2 and that stuff. So I'm not so much into the. I've heard legends about Commander Keen and how people spent in that area nights with it, but I'm not so deep into it. So I wouldn't really know what IP we could be talking about.
Well, I can tell you an example. For example, in July, THQ Nordic got the rights to Alone in the Dark.
Okay,
which is a very, very famous horror game series.
Which, okay, I know that again from consoles. I wasn't aware that it was older, that it was already on DOS. Yeah, Alone in the Dark would be a great thing. But that has been done and redone already, wasn't it?
I know.
But it's great, yeah, sure. Yeah, so I can really tell. I think taking old IPs or even like IPs maybe from other media that are older, that's a great thing, a great opportunity. Of course, I would be honored if I really like it. But since you specifically asked for a DOS area game, it'd be kind of hard for me to imagine something. So the first thing that brought me into video games was Sonic the Hedgehog, 16-bit Mega Drive. It was like, oh, that was really great. It was the speed and the music, and then this duality between the nature and Dr. Robotnik's monsters with the metal thing. I always thought it would be great to make like resource management and construction game out of the where you play Dr. Robotnik. So you start with nothing somewhere in Green Hill Zone and have to capture the animals and transform them into robots, and they do your bidding and start mining ore and building traps and so. And you build those levels, and you have to automatically do them. And then some other player could play as Sonic and Tails and try to get through them. That would be awesome.
So a mix of Minecraft. Super Mario Maker, and Sonic. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Sounds like a great idea. Yeah, I would definitely play it.
So, Michael, what would you take as a DOS IP?
That's a really good question. I think I would never touch something like Alone in the Dark, because we don't have any experience in horror games, and I think it's a really hard thing to scare people. There are a few studios that make that job really good, but I don't think that we could deliver enough scares. But that's also that's also because of our team. Our team is more it consists of funny people. So I would love to. I will never do that because it's owned by Disney now. But I would love to make another Monkey Island game. I think that would be really great. But that's out of reach forever, I think.
As you said, funny developers. That actually was the first question AJ asked David Fox. Like, so what do you have against hamsters? Yeah, because the hamster was put in the microwave in Maniac Mansion, then it made plop, and I was like, AJ, no, don't do that. But he totally did, Yeah. So I don't know. I guess we covered most of it. Wonderful.
Yeah.
Great.
I've been pretty quiet. I wasn't at Gamescom, so I'm just basically I'm living my Gamescom experience through everybody else that's been there.
Yeah, but as I said, I totally find it interesting because from my perspective, it must be totally exhausting, repeating the same thing over and over again and explaining the same game. But I also noticed that it depends a lot on who you speak to. For example, I had an interview with Gary Penn, who is doing Autobots, and he was totally amazed when I said, like, okay, so your game is a mix of the Settlers, the Sims, SimCity, and all that stuff, and he was totally happy that somebody actually mentioned the old IPs from the Amiga and DOS games and would see that would understand what he is creating nowadays, because let's face it, a lot of press and professional media are consisting of people that are too young to ever have played or heard of that games.
Yeah.
Certainly. And on the other hand, you have the same problem with the developers. I know when I was making an interview with Wilhelm with Will Ho from Ghost Games, which is the Swedish sub-company of EA, about the Need for Speed Payback 2 years ago, and I was asking, so what's in it for the retro gamers that played the first part from '95? And he totally had to think about an answer, because he really couldn't relate to those old DOS games from the first Need for Speed series, you know? Mm-hmm. So also, I think it's sometimes hard for the developers to understand where the game was originally coming from. And that is also why a lot of people say that the newer successors of old games are boring, because they are expecting something which isn't there anymore. But companies like EA and Konami, they keep on pushing the old IPs from the last 20 years because they know they work in a way. Mm-hmm. You know, I mean, who hasn't heard about FIFA Soccer or Pro Evolution Soccer or Need for Speed? Everybody heard about it, you know. Even if you are not an avid gamer, you probably heard about it from a friend, you know. Mm-hmm. Well, that's of course something you guys from the indie development don't have. You don't usually have an IP that you can build on and make the fifth or sixth successor from it. But I guess also that's not your goal. You don't want to create a series of games.
Well, before you can create the series, you got to create the first one.
Exactly. Yeah, but what indies are doing, they're recycling mechanics. They don't rely on IPs, but if you're doing another platformer, it will be compared to Mario and Sonic, no matter if you have the IP or not, because that's just the dominant thing in this genre. So but I think by not relying too much on the IP, you'll have to make some variants of it. You have to mix something old with something new. And that is something where maybe the larger companies, where they shy away, they say, oh no, let's not alienate our player base, because if we try something completely new, they may not like it, and then shareholder value will drop and everything will be a disaster. And as an indie, you just say, okay, I like this game of my teenage days or whatnot, but this and this could be better, so let's just change it. And so it's more an experimental thing. It's like genre mixing or adding new mechanics to old proven stuff. I think that's what indies excel at compared to AAA companies.
But I have to admit, the game industry is totally full of surprises. For example, 4 years ago, I did an interview with Chris Hülsbeck, who did the music for Gianna Sisters. Mm-hmm. And he said during the interview that Black Forest, which is now one of the most known indie development studios, when they started with their Gianna Sisters Twisted Dreams, they didn't ask for permission of the copyright holder. So they almost weren't allowed to publish it and release it, but they asked Chris Hülsbeck, and you know he was also a member of Factor 5, and he spoke to his friends and all that stuff. So sometimes indie studios taking all risk rather than security. But I guess that's more an exception than the proof. Normally, you check out if you are allowed to make a very similar game.
I think it's a pretty bold move to just build it without having the IP, isn't it?
Right. Yeah.
Because then you end up a lot of times, you know, like the guy that did the Super Mario game on the C64. That where you go through a lot of work. It took him how many years to do it, and then it was released for 3 days, and Nintendo shut it down.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, you don't want to put any kind of work into stuff like that if you're not going to be able to do something with it.
Not really, no.
Yeah, but that's also the difference between some publishers or copyright holders. For example, Sonic was a similar kind of story. Sonic Mania, that was released 2 years ago. It was basically an almost finished game, and Sega said, "No, don't stop it. Continue it. You know, we will publish it for you. You know, we will make it an official Sega game."
I think
Really?
that's
There
the
was a story of
exception.
Sonic Mania?
Yeah. Well,
It's awesome. I haven't heard that.
I did an interview with Mario Döhler from Sega, so you can listen to it. And I guess that's also interesting that even though the video game industry has some rules, some companies, publishers are saying, okay, no problem, continue your work. We will make an official Sega game. So yes, the Sonic Mania release wasn't published by Sega. And they weren't officially planning it. They just took the developers who were already working on it and said, "Continue, we will support you." So
That's great.
Yeah, and actually, 2 years ago, after that was released, I was also in Japan, in Tokyo, and I saw in the Tokyo arcades they just used a PC, put it in an arcade cabinet, and then it seemed like it was an arcade game, which it wasn't. But of course, the Japanese players wouldn't know, you know. So it's a total interesting story, and it's interesting how some indie development studios became known. Everybody in the industry knows them because they made a bold move.
Yeah.
Right, and now everybody's talking about them, and. I don't know if Korean or solar powered games will go to that realm, or if you're even planning to be known, or if you prefer to be small and rather develop your own games. I guess at that point where you grow too big, it will also be difficult to be independent.
Yeah, true.
Well, and while we're talking about that, where can anybody go to find out? Because you both have your own IPs that you're working with, you know. So where can people find out information about those things? Because we've talked a lot about Gamescom, but we haven't talked much about your individual projects.
Oh, that's fine. About solar powered games, we have a website for solar powered games. We have a website for the game itself. It's just www.highrisers.de. There's everything you need to know. We have background info, video trailers, screenshots. So whenever you need information about that, you can go there. I mean, we're also doing the same. We're also on Twitter, but I have the feeling Twitter is more like, it's not so much communication with end consumers. It's more like communication to press guys and other developers. It's mainly other pixel guys looking, hey, check out this cool pixel art, what they did. So it's like a bit of an incubator, but you're not getting much reach outside. Yeah, that's mostly what we're doing. Mike, what are you doing for Ships and Scoundrels?
We are having also our page, korean.de. And there is a lot of information of Ships and Scoundrels, and also a bit about our pixel art game, Alien Escape, we recently released, and Memora, what we have shown on this year's Gamescom, is at memora.de. Yeah.
Awesome.
And to everybody who listens to this, don't worry, we will also make a Gamescom special roundup like we do every year, and there we will also have the interviews from Memora and Highrisers update interview, also with Markus this year. So that will also be there in another podcast episode. So you won't be missing out.
Yeah, and we will put all the links that you just mentioned in the podcast description so that anyone listening can go and click on them and check that out.
Right.
Awesome.
Great. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
So 1 hour and a half, a lot of Gamescom development, indie talk. Learned a lot today. Thanks a lot, guys.
Yes, indeed.
Great. All right, guys. So thanks a lot.
Yes, thank you very much.
Okay. Yeah, talk to you then. Bye-bye.
Bye.